have a similar situation as well. Of course, if there's a recovery, that's inevitable on the basis of capitalism. Socialists and Marxists have always argued, unless the working class seizes the opportunity to mobilise to change society, it's inevitable that there will be a certain recovery in relation to capitalism itself. The question is, what is the character of that recovery? Is it green shoots or is it green weeds? Is it going back to the situation of 3 or 4 years ago? No serious representative of capitalism expects yesterday to appear tomorrow. There's an academic discussion taking place in the 5 pages of the capitalist press today. Do we face a recession? Do we face a depression? By the way, 2 million poor people, poor children in Britain are living in households where nobody is working at the present time. 170,000 has been added to this figure of 2 million as a reflection of what is taking place. If you want to know what a depression is like, it's already there in Latvia, where there's 30% of the workers in the private and the public sector who have been sacked, where half the hospitals have been closed down in Latvia in the recent period. Go to California, one of the richest countries in the world. If it was a country, it would be the 8th richest in the world. That's devastated by this economic depression or recession, call it what you will, but it means that the position in California is tens of thousands of workers are now living out on the streets. It's a failed state. Much as Iraq was a failed state for George Bush, on the basis of capitalism, this is a failed state. I won't even mention Detroit, which was once one of the richest cities in America in the whole of its history, where there's 30% unemployment at the present time. And if you think we're going to escape this, the Evening Standard carried an article of a few weeks ago that said, be prepared to work 7 more years. Not us, not the older generation, but you, the youth of this country, added to the 1 million young people who are unemployed at the present time, who will go up to 1.25 million if unemployment climbs to 3 million or 3.5 million. That's the future which is sketched out for working people and particularly for the youth on the basis of capitalism. And George Osborne says, well, we're all in this together. By the way, this is the man who actually claimed on his parliamentary expenses £40 for 2 DVDs. They were DVDs of the speeches that he'd made in the House of Commons. Individual. This is the man, the shallow chancellor, as the City of London say. This is the man, they say, if he utters the word I think, then he should take a lie detector test. That is the analysis not of us, but of his own peers in the City of London itself. There's an enormous campaign, contradicted by the marvellous speeches that have been made here tonight, that working people have no alternative but to accept the medicine which is being prepared for them by capitalism. But as Keith pointed out, as Bob, as Matt have marvellously explained, and Brian, working people are fighting back. Look at Vistian, look at Lindsay, look at Linamont, look at Vestas, look at the tremendous strike that's taking place in Leeds at the present time. Really a ferocious resistance on the part of the working class there, of local government workers who've been expected to actually take a 33% cut in their wages, in their income. That's a dress rehearsal, by the way, of what will take place if a Tory government comes to power. And by the way, the leader of the Leeds City Council is a Lib Dem. No wonder Nick Clegg has said the future belongs to progressive austerity, a contradiction in terms if you don't believe it. But on the picket line, look the way these workers have marvellously improvised. For instance, according to the Daily Mirror yesterday, the police are actually banning the ordinary strikers from shouting at those workers who cross the picket line scam. So what have the pickets yelled back? They've yelled back, sausage, chips and bacon. When you cautioned them against the use of the word W, they shouted back tanker. And when they said, you bastards, they said, where's your mum and dad? A marvellous improvisation of the dreamer of working class people. We've had 2 general strikes in France this year. We've unfortunately had 2 sides of the working class today, of workers in desperation against the dictatorship of capital in the factories committing suicide, in, for instance, British Telecom. But other workers have actually taken to the road of struggle, and some so desperate that they mined their own factory with dynamite this summer in order to prevent redundancies taking place. That's a warning, by the way, to the labour movement in Britain, that unless a conscious lead is given, unless we can win the best representatives of the working class and ordinary working class people, then on the basis of what's going to develop in Britain and internationally, such are the social tensions that this generation is not going to wait. It will move into action. The choice is whether it's going to be a conscious movement, or we will experience what we saw in the 1980s with the riots that took place in Liverpool, in St. Paul's, and of course in London at that particular moment in time. These strikes I've mentioned are only the visible expression of the colossal, seething discontent that exists amongst working class people at the situation they face. There is no leadership from the summits of the labour movement, apart from the comrades who've spoken here tonight and perhaps 1 or 2 others. Where is the leadership from the General Secretary of Unison? They don't attack the bosses, they attack their own members.